Hey everybody, it's Mitch and welcome to my next video. Today we have got another video, and today's video is going to be, it's going to be the difference between Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 versus Pathfinder 1st Edition. So let's get into it. Now, the two games are incredibly similar. There are a lot of similarities between the two, and that's actually somewhat deliberate because the creators of Pathfinder 1st Edition, they used 3.5 as their guide, and basically their goal was to take 3.5 and make it better, which is what they were planning. Now, let's talk about some of the differences between the two. So some of the stuff that you'll see with Pathfinder is they decided to take all the various different attack options like Sunder and Trip and Bull Rush, and just kind of combine that all into one one kind of attack. I forget the exact name that they used for it, but they kind of combined that all together. And they even created a special AC for that and a special attack roll for that. So they basically took all those special attack options and made it into something very similar to a normal attack with a normal AC, but with different numbers. So yeah, they did that to try and simplify things. Now, I don't think it exactly fits perfectly because Trip and Bull Rush and Sunder and all that are all very, very different things. So using the same role for all of them, I'm not sure about that. It does simplify the game though, because whenever someone wants to use those kind of things, if you're not using them constantly, you are looking up rules because it's not something you see a lot. Okay, so another major difference is certain skills. A number of skills they combined into one, like perception, stuff like that. So they decided to take very similar skills and kind of roll them all into one skill, but they didn't rebalance classes. So things like rogues, who have a lot of those skills that they rolled all into one, they still got 8+ int skill points. So now all of a sudden they get like ridiculous numbers of skills. It's kind of crazy how much skills a rogue can get. So they basically get all their class skills, whereas normally in like 3.5 they wouldn't. So there's that. Some other differences between them. They added some things like advantage and stuff like that got added into the game, where you can roll a d20. You can roll 2 d20s. Now there was a little bit of that in 3.5, but they did a little bit more of that in Pathfinder, I think, or maybe that was 5e. I might be getting that confused. Let's see what other differences. Well, one of the things that really is the biggest difference, in my opinion, is in 3.5, you have your core rule books and you have your splat books. Then you have like more and more and more splat books and the Dragon magazine and all sorts of crazy stuff. And then you see online there's also all sorts of homebrew rules. Well, the thing about Pathfinder is, the thing about that is every single time you go farther away from core, the rules get a little bit crazier, and there's just a little less polish the farther away you go from core. Things just don't quite work together, and you start seeing things that aren't written the best, or things that don't gel quite right, and you just see more and more and more of that. And when you get into homebrew, and it's like, oof, this wasn't fully thought through. It doesn't really work with everything. You see a lot of that, which is why a lot of DMs don't allow it. Now in Pathfinder, the whole thing feels like homebrew. In all honesty, like everything feels like it just really didn't get the full finesse that something like D&D 3.5 got. It just feels like it was made by fans, just like homebrew, and it doesn't feel like it got the amount of work and the amount of care, the amount of attention. I really don't think I really don't think it got as much. It just doesn't feel like that to me. It doesn't feel nearly as polished. Like, it's not bad, don't get me wrong. Like, they did a pretty decent job, but I think having, some of the guys who actually had built the game from the ground up involved might have been helpful, which they didn't have. So yeah, it just doesn't feel as polished. It doesn't feel like things are really working quite the way they should. There's a lot of just it just feels really homebrew to me. So that's one of the big differences. Now, they did fix some stuff in Pathfinder. Sure, there's definitely a little less ambiguity there. Pathfinder also added some interesting new systems like flaws, which don't exist in 3.5. So you can take a flaw and gain, which hurts your character, but then gain a benefit from that. I forget the exact name they have for that. So like you can have your normal classes and whatnot, but you can do things that hurt your character that you're taking voluntarily for free that give you a slight benefit somewhere else, which is kind of interesting. Really good for min-max kind of builds. Also can add a lot of character and flavor and just make the game more fun. So that's not terrible, not gonna lie. So that was an interesting addition that they had, which I didn't mind so much. In fact, I kind of like that part of it. But yeah, there's just a number of differences. They changed a lot of really subtle things here and there, and if that's something you got to be aware of when you're switching from one to the other. Just these subtle little differences between the two. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about the differences. Which do I prefer? Well, obviously I prefer 3.5. That's where my background is. If you've seen any of my other videos, most of them are on 3.5. So if you like 3.5, definitely check them out. Maybe subscribe to the channel, because I do a ton of videos, one on every single class, race, and prestige class in 3.5. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking it. As I said, subscribe, maybe ring that bell for notifications, because YouTube's terrible about that. But anyways, as always, I'm Mitch. I'll be seeing you.